Hello everyone, Bible believers around the world. So originally I was going to be saving this Ishmael piece for the Finding Japheth series, because in the Japheth series we are getting ready to cover the Japheth shall dwell in the tents of Shem part, where we're going to be learning that a lot of these peoples in the Middle East are actually Japhetic peoples who are just living in Shemite land, and these are not the original inhabitants of the land that were there during the Bible time period. But I decided to make this Ishmael piece its separate lesson instead of putting it with the Finding Japheth series. And this is a problem that is going on with many Israelites, where they use Jubilees falsely to try and help uplift the Esau is the white man doctrine. And we're going to find out about that very shortly. So let's get reading. The title of today's lesson: Not All Arabs are Ishmaelites. Let's get into it. The One West Nations chart states that all Arabs are the descendants of Ishmael. However, this is false. Most Arabs today are Turks with Japhetic origin, and as a result are not connected to the Hebrew Ishmaelites in any way whatsoever. The One West camps push this narrative to help support their doctrine that says white people are Edomites, because most of the real Edomites are what we would call Afro-Arabs who live in the Middle East today. These black Arabs are the original peoples from the Bible, like Esau and Ishmael, and are separate from the Japhetic Caucasoid Arabs who are part of the prophecy in Genesis that says Japheth shall dwell in the tents of Shem. Exactly. There are multiple types of Arabs, and not all of them are Ishmael, like the One West camps falsely say. Most of the Arabs that you see on TV, TikTok, Facebook, whatever it may be, are actually Japhethites who have invaded the land and are currently living there. And DNA actually proves that. We've been doing a lot of DNA on the channel. Now we know that Ishmael was a Hebrew, and that Ishmael was a descendant of Abraham, so he would have a DNA link to the Israelites. But when you look at these white-looking Arabs, they are related and share a common ancestor with white people, just like we learned in the Japheth series about most of the Indians. And we're really starting to learn that the old historians of old times were right to call it the Japhetic race or the Japheth race instead of the white race. Whiteness is a complete lie. White supremacy, whiteness, that's all a lie. And I'm going to tell you why. Because most of the Indians, like we saw in the most recent episode of the Japheth series, are actually Caucasians and share a common ancestor with white people. They are Japhetic too, even though they are not pale-skinned, but they are Caucasian though. Caucasian doesn't necessarily mean white, because you can have the Caucasian blood and features and all that type of stuff, but be brown. Just like these Middle Easterners, the Japhetic ones. Some of them can be a bit tan, but they share a common ancestor with white people and they are related to them. They are Japheth as well. So not every Japhethite looks like Captain America with blonde hair and blue eyes. We've already learned that in the Japheth series. This is a part of the enlargement of Japheth, how he has populations on every continent. But not all of them have a pale complexion. And that's why we're learning that it's the Japhetic race and not the white race. Because you grab Indians from India, and then you grab a lot of these people from Iran, and a lot of these people from Syria, and they're all white people, they're all Japhetic people, but not all of them are going to look pale. That's why we're learning that the white race is a lie. It's the Japhetic race. Because the DNA shows that these people are the same, but modern politics are trying to make most Indians, like I said, most, because there are Hamite and scattered Israelite ones in India. But in terms of the Caucasian ones, they're trying to, make the Latinos, who we've also found out are Japhetic and related to white people. They're trying to make, in modern politics, the Latinos and the Indians and the Iranians and the Syrians their own people. But in reality, they're white people. Like we already mentioned, most Indians are just brown white people. And we already saw that, there's biblical evidence of the Indians talking about having Japhet in their religion. Having Japhet, in the religious doctrine. Repeating myself now. Let's keep going. The book of Jubilees does not say the Ishmaelites are the only Arabs. It says that they mingled with the people of Keturah, and their name was called Arabs. This lines up with the Hebrew because in Hebrew, the word Arab means mix or mingle. It does not mean just Ishmael, because Edomites are Arabs too. And that's something I want to mention. In Arab sources, the Arabs themselves call the Edomites Arabs. Even the Arabs don't subscribe to this One West Camp doctrine that Arabs are only Ishmael. And the reason the One West Camps push this is they're trying to uplift the Esau's the white man doctrine. Because if they admit that Edomites are Arabs, then they have to throw away their wicked false doctrine in the trash. Now, like I said most of the Edomites are what we would call the Afro-Arabs, because we now know that there were Edomites with the Phoenicians who sailed over to America. So small portions of Edomites are in America, but for the most part, they're still in Arabia. Teman, Dedan, Basra. We know the prophecies. Now, let's go down to Jubilees, which is what they falsely use to try and say that all Arabs are Ishmael, which means Esau can't be an Arab and he has to be a so-called white man. Let's get started. And Ishmael and his sons and the sons of Keturah and their sons went together and dwelt from Paran to entering in of Babylon, and all of the land which is towards the east, facing the desert. And these mingled with each other, and their name was called Arabs and Ishmaelites. Boom! I'm going to do an explosion like Sons and Daughters of Covenant of Yah. Mingled with each other, and their name was called Arabs. See, let's go down to the Strongs. Word 6151, Arab, meaning, Strong's concordance. Mingle, self, mix. Arab means to mingle or to mix. It doesn't just mean Ishmael. And notice how it says after it says mingle after they mingled with each other, their name was called Arabs and Ishmaelites. So Ishmael didn't lose his identity and just become known as Arab. Like, it wasn't a situation where Jacob's name became Israel. Ishmael's name didn't become Arab, and now Arab is like Arabites or something, and now that's who Ishmael is. Ishmael is still his own separate seed of people. Arab means mingle, the mixed people, and we can see that throughout Scripture, where it talks about the mixed people that dwell in the desert. That's what an Arab is. It just means mixed. It doesn't mean Ishmael. Not all Arabs are Ishmael. Like we talked about, there's Japhet Arabs. There's, the Afro Arabs, the black ones, the original ones in the land. You got Edomite Arabs. You have Ishmaelite Arabs. I mean, I've literally had conversations with Arabs online who claim Edomite heritage. They're not claiming Ishmael, and they're not claiming Japhet, and then there's other Arabs, who will talk about Ishmael, and then you have some Arabs who will be talking about, they're Caucasian. But a lot of the Caucasian ones have been deceived into thinking that they are Ishmael, because obviously I don't follow the Quran, but I've heard people say that the Quran says that Arabs are Ishmael, kind of like what the One West camps say. So a lot of these Japhetic Turks who came in during the Ottoman Empire, these white people who live in the Middle East, no matter if it be the whites of Iran, the whites of Syria, the whites of Saudi, all these other places, they now think they're Ishmael. They think they're Hebrew. When in reality, this is what I mentioned in a past video, a lot of the people in the Middle East are not actually Shemitic. They just speak a Shemitic language. And that's why I put these two pictures up. These are Japhethite Arabs. These are not Esau. These are not Ishmael. They just speak a Shemitic language, but they are Japhetic by blood. And that's exactly the rant I just went on about the white race being a lie. Because you look at this person on the left, and you'll be like, he can't be white. But you look at that DNA, and he'll go all the way back to Japheth, just like, the cashier in Provo, Utah. You see, it's Caucasian. They have the right, they're Caucasians. But not all Caucasians are pale skinned. That's the thing we're getting wrong. It's just like the Israelites. You have some Israelites who are lighter than others. You have some who are super dark, you have some who are super light. But you can still tell we're all brothers. We all look similar. We all have the same blood type. We're all related, but some of us might be lighter. Just like you have the Indians, like we talked about in the Japheth series, where they're brown, but they're still Caucasians, and their DNA is a complete, perfect link with white people, and they share a common ancestor with them. That's why it's the Japhetic race, not the white race.